It is the power to communicate with one's mind. While most often associated with higher beings like elves and wizards, it was also possible with mortals. Key moments of this phenomenon appear with characters from Frodo Baggins to Morgoth himself. Today on Nerd of the Rings, we cover Ósanwë. This term Ósanwë means interchange of thought in Quenya, and it is commonly thought of as being a method of mind communication. We've seen this depicted in adaptations, including a trio of moments featuring Galadriel, with the Fellowship in Lorien, over a great distance with Elrond, and in the midst of a meeting with Gandalf. In the books, we find some clear examples of Ósanwë, and others that are more open to interpretation. One of the most obvious examples comes in the closing chapters of The Return of the King, when the great company of heroes is journeying north after their victory. In this passage, we find Gandalf, Elrond, Galadriel, and Celeborn would be up late at night on the road. Often long after the hobbits were wrapped in sleep, they would sit together under the stars, recalling the ages that were gone and all their joys and labors in the world, or holding counsel concerning the days to come. If any wanderer had chanced to pass, little would he have seen or heard, and it would have seemed to him only that he saw gray figures, carved in stone, memorials of forgotten things now lost in unpeopled lands, for they did not move or speak with mouth, looking from mind to mind, and only their shining eyes stirred and kindled as their thoughts went to and fro. Much of what we know about Ósanwë actually comes in one of the most recently published books, 2021's The Nature of Middle-earth. Here we find a chapter called Ósanwë Kenta, or Inquiry into the Communication of Thought. In this text, which is presented as written by in-world lore master Pengoloth of Gondolin, we find that all minds are equal in status, though they differ in capacity and strength. As such, we find, as one might expect, that more powerful beings like Valar are stronger in this sense than elves, and even weaker are men. What will likely surprise no one is that Tolkien's text also laid out a good amount of framework for how Ósanwë works. There are 3 things we are told may help the message of the sender to reach a recipient's mind: affinity between the two people, perhaps in the form of kinship or love; urgency, imparted by great need of the sender, especially if these are in any degree shared by the receiver, the thought is received more clearly; and finally, authority, if the two have a duty toward one another, like a ruler issuing a command, or for seeking the truth for the good of others. These things will help a thought to penetrate the mind of the receiver, though it is again worth noting that even these things will not pierce a closed mind. Closing one's mind is a powerful defense that anyone can do. We see that Frodo must close his mind to the Dark Lord at Amon Hen. And suddenly he felt the eye. There was an eye in the dark tower that did not sleep. He knew that it had become aware of his gaze. A fierce, eager will was there. It leaped towards him. Almost like a finger he felt it, searching for him. Very soon it would nail him down, know just exactly where he was. Amon Law it touched. It glanced upon Tol Brandir. He threw himself from the seat, crouching, covering his head with his gray hood. He heard himself crying out, "Never, never," or was it, "Verily I come to you"? He could not tell. Then, as a flash from some other point of power, there came to his mind another thought. Take it off, take it off. Fool, take it off. Take off the ring. The two powers strove in him. For a moment, perfectly balanced between their piercing points, he writhed, tormented. Suddenly he was aware of himself again. Frodo, neither the voice nor the eye, free to choose, and with one remaining instant in which to do so. He took the ring off his finger. He was kneeling in clear sunlight before the high seat. A black shadow seemed to pass like an arm above him. It missed Amon Hen and groped out west and faded. Then all the sky was clean and blue, and birds sang in every tree. Thus Frodo is able to find himself once more, after not only being bombarded by Sauron, but also a second voice. Looking further into Nature of Middle-earth, we read, "Though in Arda unmarred, openness is the normal state, every mind has, from its first making as an individual, the right to close, and it has absolute power to make this effective by will. Nothing can penetrate the barrier of unwill." This shows the power of closing off one's mind to others. This barrier of unwill cannot be pierced by anyone, not even Morgoth. The only one that cannot be closed out is Eru himself. Indeed, this is one of those things that further shows Morgoth that he is not equal to Iluvatar. There are rules that even Morgoth cannot break. We are told from this proceeds Morgoth's unceasing and unappeasable rage. The essay goes much deeper into this concept in regard to Morgoth specifically, but in short, we find that he could not by force use Ósanwë with one whose mind was closed. This would lead him to attempt deception and stealth when it came to affecting others' minds, rather than his preferred methods of power and fear. But who was the second voice that Frodo heard in his mind? Who was it that would strive against Sauron for the soul of the Ring-Bearer? Later in the Two Towers, we would discover this mysterious second voice was none other than a newly resurrected Gandalf. "Some things he has seen, and others I have seen myself. The ring now has passed beyond my help, or the help of any of the company that set out from Rivendell. Very nearly it was revealed to the enemy, but it escaped. I had some part in that, for I sat in a high place, and I strove with the Dark Tower, and the shadow passed. Then I was weary, very weary, and I walked long in dark thought." "Then you know about Frodo," said Gimli. "How do things go with him?" "I cannot say. He was saved from a great peril, but many lie before him still. He resolved to go alone to Mordor, and he set out. That is all that I can say." Thus Gandalf was able to reach Frodo, leading him to take off the ring and close his mind to Sauron. Another character we find that has closed their mind to Sauron is Galadriel. She tells this to Frodo, who likely did not understand the implications. "I say to you, Frodo, that even as I speak to you, I perceive the Dark Lord and know his mind, or all of his mind that concerns the elves, and he gropes ever to see me and my thought, but still the door is closed." What's interesting here is that Galadriel mentions she perceives the Dark Lord and knows the parts of his mind that concern the elves. Does this mean Sauron leaves his mind open to her? While we can only speculate, we find that perhaps this is simply a matter of Galadriel knowing the history of Sauron, having lived through his efforts against the elves in the First and Second Ages. However, we also find in Unfinished Tales that Galadriel is uniquely gifted in having insight about others, and that, during their days in Valinor, there was only one who she didn't look upon charitably. From her earliest years, she had a marvelous gift of insight into the minds of others, but judged them with mercy and understanding, and she withheld her goodwill from none save only Feanor. In him she perceived a darkness that she hated and feared, though she did not perceive that the shadow of the same evil had fallen upon the minds of all the Noldor, and upon her own. It's notable that while Galadriel seems to have supernatural perception of others, this seems less an example of Ósanwë, but rather a matter of her being a good judge of character, interpreting their hearts and minds rather than knowing them. In the same writings, Tolkien distinguishes this type of conclusion as forecasting, which is more of an opinion made by reasoning upon present evidence, and is distinct from knowledge received via Ósanwë. In a world where magic is often mysterious, we find that Ósanwë is no exception. Many have wondered why Gandalf would not use Ósanwë in order to be rescued from Orthanc, or why Ulmo would need to use Tuor as a messenger to Gondolin. Clearly this was something Tolkien was continuing to flesh out and is among the treasure trove of deep-cut topics. Regardless, it is an interesting concept that comes up in some notable situations, whether conversations among friends or in the struggle for the very mind of the ring-bearer. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube supporters who make this channel possible. Tom DeBombadil19, Lissamy the Cinda, Rabbi Rob Thomas, Charles Leisure, CCDC Red Team, Joe Tepper, The Mighty Mim, Andrew Carlisle, Swirled Traveler, Matthew Jeffrey, Viking Lord, Alvin Einbert, Jeremy Daniel Derby, Leo Vittori, Sky Carcass, Slide Belts, Dane Ragnarsson, Berto Berg, Graham Derricott, The Dark-Haired One, Wyland, Micah Wu, and Debbie. If you enjoyed the artwork in this video, check out the artists in the description to purchase prints of their great work for yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.